it's often easy to think that your vote doesn't count. After all, it's one single vote. Very few elections in history have been switched by one single vote. So on that logic, probably shouldn't bother voting. Now, aside from the elections that have been swung on incredibly small margins, like the Runcorn and Helsby by-election, which was swung by, I think, 4 votes, maybe it was 6 votes, I can't remember, you should probably vote. Now, I'm not going to say this because you're going to swing an election, you're probably not. The most important thing that you can do when voting is you bring your individual interests to the interests of the politicians. What do I mean by that? Well, when you vote, politicians realise that they need to pander to your interests in order to win your vote. If you never vote, or if you don't vote regularly, then they're not going to bother because they don't think that they're ever going to be able to get your vote in the first place. This means that regardless who you actually vote for, they are actually more likely to pander to your interests. Now, because of various post-election data, they're probably likely to know which demographics vote more and vote less. So if young people as a whole vote less, which currently is the case, whilst older people are more likely to vote, then politicians are more likely to pander to old people's interests because they know by doing that they can get more votes out of them just because more old people vote. This means, for example, that the pension keeps on rising above inflation, whereas young people are faced with falling real wages in many cases, really high university costs, really high living costs, and of course, rising youth unemployment. And the government doesn't focus on these issues as much because not enough young people vote for it to be worthwhile. So this is why it's actually important to vote. It's so that your demographic, your group's interests are actually being recognised by politicians and are being acted on by politicians. Now, of course, this is difficult because if you're not that engaged in politics, you probably don't know who to vote for, or and you probably don't want to bother with that. Well, there are a few things you can do. First of all, you can very briefly read up, like, headline things of what each party wants to do, and then you can just decide, what do I feel works with me? Or otherwise you can spoil your ballot, and when you spoil your ballot, you just break the rules of the election box, so you just do something else with your ballot. Often you can write a message on that spoiled ballot, and it means that a party member or official might actually see that message when they go and monitor the count. But what's really important to note is that the most important thing is not who you vote for. The most important thing is that you vote. And that is the strongest message I can send anyone, is that on Thursday, it takes 5 minutes, walk to the polling station, put a cross next to a party's name, or spoil your ballot. If you're putting a cross next to a party's name or a candidate's name, make sure that you at least know a little bit about who you're voting for. I'm going to release another video saying who I recommend you vote for, but more important than any of that is just that you vote, that you get your interests represented, and that therefore people can recognise your interests, people in power, and therefore they can ensure that you have the highest quality of life that they can deliver. Thanks for listening. I realise it's been a while since my last video. I'm going to do another video or two before the election. I had been planning on doing like more critiques of various parties' campaign material like I did a while back for the Tories, but all the campaign material ended up being pretty much the same from all the parties, so you can basically get an idea of all the campaign material from that one video, which I'll link now. See you in the next one.